is that, because that would require a forecast vote, but our budget has sufficient funds to accommodate the extra 10,000?
It does currently because we haven't been paying Deputy County Council for months. And so then the way it was
So
explained.
you're going to internally shift funds
Yes.
within the budget to cover the extra, so no extra appropriations necessary.
Right.
Are there any other questions from board members? So the action request is to approve the contract and then. I'll make that motion. Move to the second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Chair votes aye. Okay, item H7, Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Melanie Bravo, Director of Lassen County Health and Social Services. And I thought with the meeting today would be a great time to bring this community, especially up to date on what's happening with the one stop here in the Big Valley and with the other one stops as well. I know you were as disappointed as we were when the bids came back, and they were way too high to do the renovations here that we do at the one stop here. So I brought extra reports if you guys would like to look at these. It just gives status. As you know, in May 2011, we submitted a plan to what was then the California State Department of Mental Health, and has since been dissolved and moved over to Department of Healthcare Services and now being considered for a move to public health. So there's been quite a bit of disarray at the state level. In addition, we've had a significant amount of turnover at the local level, including me. I was not here at the time this plan was submitted either, or it's not in this position. The original plan called for 2 phases for the capital facility money. Most of you are probably familiar with this, but it's very, very difficult to get money to spend on capital facilities. They want you to figure out how to build buildings but not spend any money on them. And if you figure out how to do that, I'm sure the board will be thrilled to hear how you did it, because we have a lot of buildings that need some help. The projects we submitted were, first phase was to install heating, ventilation, air conditioning system at our one-stop in Furlong, Fort Sage one-stop, because they didn't have heat and air conditioning. And that was done. It was completed in April of 2012. The total cost on that was only $2,702. That came out of the initial allocation, or the initial preparation of those funds, which was $788,500. And the second phase of that was to expand the one-stop here in Big Valley. And we had hoped that the project costs would come in low enough so we have enough left over to do in the West, but I don't know if any of you here have seen some of the other one-stops in the communities. The Fort Sage one has a lot of room, but it's an old building and it needs a lot of work, and it's not ADA compliant. And so there's a lot of ramps that have to be built down there and restrooms. The one in Westwood was actually intended to be like a shop. It's got a roll-up garage door that's still there inside the building. They put up a temporary wall and a window there. And it's got one little bathroom and one little office and this break room that actually looks more like a closet. This way. And then the rest of it's all open space. We put some cubicle walls on there, but you can imagine that's not very private. So all 3 of our one-stops are not great facilities, but they got us into the communities and started providing services. They've been able to work with family resource centers and really connecting people to a lot of services we couldn't get there before. So I know you were disappointed that we weren't able to do that. We had to reject those bids. At the same time that the board made that decision, Pete Heimbinger from Public Works and I were directed to go out and begin looking at other alternatives for not just the Big Valley one, but now for all 3, because the one in Furlong was accidentally sold, and a bunch of properties that were sold and that used to belong to the LRA. So now we're renting that one in Furlong, but it doesn't actually belong to us, and I can't put a lot of government money into fixing up a commercial building, so I'm kind of stuck there. I have to find something new. I really need to fix up the one in Westwood, and I definitely got to do something about the Big Valley, the one here in Big Valley. In the interim, we have spent, you'll see there on the back, it gives kind of the totals. We've spent about $40,000 on the engineering. That was for the work that was done in Big Valley. having the plans made that turned out to be too expensive to build. But you have to have engineering in order to have these public projects, so we didn't have a choice on that. And then there was a plan check that went along with that. And then there was the $356 we spent on publishing the notices so that people would know it was out for bid. And as you can see there, we posted some interest to that account. The remaining balance is $647,988. We fully intend to use that money on capital facilities, and we fully intend to use all of it on the one-stops. But at this point, I have to figure out how to help all three one-stops get better. So I just wanted to let you know that the money's still there, it's not going away. My intent to fix the building is still there, and I'm still going to be here for a while longer. I'm getting ready to retire, but I'm not that close yet. And so I just wanted to let you know that that's the status. We will be working on all three of those, and we have some ideas. Pete and I are looking at modulars, portable steel buildings, all kinds of options to see what's out there. All of them include engineering, you just can't get out of the engineering department. And then once we have some ideas of how we might be able to work for all three of them, we will bring them back to the communities, just as we're required to do under the Mental Services Act, and get your approval or suggestions for modifications or whatever we want to get on. And I am so sorry that it didn't work out the way we planned. I couldn't believe it was costing me. We had budgeted $495,000 and it was $587 for the lowest bid. So it's a lot of money. With the situation in Herlong and the situation Westwood, we didn't feel it was a good idea to try to throw all our eggs in one basket, but it looked like we had two other baskets we had to do. Are there any questions? I'll be happy to answer your questions. Well, thank you for your patience. Yes?
I did have one question, and that is, in response to what you said, there's not much money for capital building. As you know, the Aurora group and then the Best group, and then other activities were taking place in the library, and then after the functional furnace and spraying a water field all over the place.
Yeah.
We could only be there, so Pastor Kent from the Grace Bible Church was kind enough to allow us to meet at their town. Not use building, and so I was talking to him the other day. He asked me, I casually he asked me, whatever happened to the building? I thought it was supposed to, in Ramona, I thought that, you want to ask that place. And then, as I explained, he goes, I'm a licensed contractor. He goes, I'll be more than willing to help build that building. So you have, space of your own. And so, we're talking back and forth, and, next thing, we said, okay, if that is the case, and you guys are willing to work with us, we can come up with something. I mean, with whatever wants to funds are available, and then with, for the community to be willing to help. One thing is very clear, that is, we cannot continue the way we are.
That's one of the really hardships at the one stop here in Big Valley is that the Aurora cannot be in there, there's not a room. And I really appreciate it offering. We would love to work with you. There are some issues in Peace, definitely more familiar with Peace than I am.
So,
Not
all
one.
that red tape is.
Well, see, the red tape is the issue because there are, prevailing wage laws that have to be met. And I don't know a whole lot about those, but we certainly would be willing to work.
On our part, we're willing to waive the prevailing wage.
I don't know if you get to make that decision. Be sure that's in the minutes. Thank you, Xavier. I love that.
And Beaver, how many square feet is the facility? Just give me a ballpark, that's fine.
A little over 1,100 feet.
In Westwood?
I think that was around 20.
Maybe Then for all,
Well, the part we're using for launch is probably around 3,500, but then there's the whole rest of the building.
I understand that, but I mean, the usable space. In her own is 3,500.
And we figured 3,750 is about right for our needs.
That was my next question.
And Pete tell me what that figure, so if it's wrong, it's Pete's fault.
Oh, no, yeah, it's based on what the office space is.
It was this small.
I'm not
Oh, yeah, that's a given.
That being said, these figures were done by our fiscal officer, we're using that to you, so. Any other questions? Sure.
You looked up anything?
No, I called the school, I thought you guys were on the same vacation schedule as we are, and apparently your kids are out this week, so. We're gonna really take a look, in fact, I have a message on my phone, and of course I have my cell service up here, so I'm gonna go back to one stop and call, it looks like the school is 294 numbers, so I'll call, and see if we can do it. You know, Aiden is in Modoc County, which would be kind of unusual. We called the state, and they were like, but they did call us back and confirm that if we had a site in Modoc County, it would still be okay for us to serve our clients in both counties and bill as a Lassen County site, which would make it affordable for us. If we would be able to bill in that county, we would be able to be there. So that was kind of a go flag for us. We're going to go over and look at the schools. There are all kinds of issues when you're talking about a one-stop, because when people come in for therapy, some of the people we see are sex offenders and or violent. I mean, that's what we do. We work with all kinds of people. And so you have to be really careful about where you site with one stop. So we will be very careful about that too. I understand preschool still on the site there. So don't know if it's going to work or not, but we're going to go over and take a look and see if that'll work. So in the meantime, if you see a nice building that's like ADA compliant and about 3,500 square feet, let me know. Anything else?
Any other questions?
One more.
Okay.
For the lack of better verbiage, customer count for each one of these, do you have any idea how many people per day you see?
Oh my gosh, it's a lot.
We see 500 to 600 a month.
And that's not all health and social services, there's a lot of resource center clients, and, because they all have food pantries, they all provide other services for the community, health and social services in there, and individual guards.
Do you still have your monthly report that you put out? Because I know we used to get those on a regular basis, but we haven't seen any.
I'll make sure that starts coming to you again.
Well, I was gonna say,
Supervisor, and I still do it every month, and it actually, I believe that's my error to.
Well, if you got it to Melody, she could.
I do, so,
Yeah, she can distribute it to the board, but I think that Mr. Hammond will address that question. We usually saw, we haven't in recent months, one stops, kind of a monthly report of the activity, and it's amazing the number of service units that are generated by all three sites, but this one up here has always been off the chart.
Yes.
Any members of the public have any questions on this?
I just would like to add this, and that is, when we were presented with a plan to build a one-stop building, we were, twice a year, we were part of the stakeholders meeting, and we were presented with, all these options, and, we were asked all these questions, what do you need, what would you like to have? You would give us a wish list, and so that went on for year after year, I would say probably 5 years. And finally it came to this, and so you were saying, we were more than disappointed. And my fear is this, that this is gonna drag on and on and on because of the red tape, and then almost like hitting one stop against the other, he's doing this and so forth. And if that's the case, I think all all you're doing is setting us up for more disappointment, more frustration, and then at some point, you're gonna be here for months. Not, just asking questions, that point is gonna be more than disappointing. So please keep that in mind. Okay, we cannot drag this on and on. One of the things that we always say, those more than $700,000, have been sitting there, earning interest. What's going to happen to that money? Is it going to be added to the whole fund, or is it going to go to the economy? All those questions keep coming up. And the longer it drags on, the more suspicion arises in people's minds. And by the way, I'm the only one here, basically speaking for all the consumers. So by default and private initiative, I'm speaking for them too. I'm not speaking just my mind. Thanks.
But if I could comment, I appreciate the gentleman's input, and he's absolutely right. We can't let it drag on and on, because each year that goes by, that value of what you can do with that pot of money is going to continue to diminish. So, had we been able to, at the get-go, the $788,000, we probably could have gotten $788,000 worth of work done. The experience has taught us that every time you delay it, even by 6 months to a year, for that $490,000 that you have left, you're going to be lucky to get $350,000 worth of work done if you in the next 18 months. I mean, as time goes on. So to me, I think that's something that should be heeded in terms. It's not just the fact that the consumers are looking for the opportunities, the access to the services and utilization, but I mean, especially true with road dollars. I mean, it's just the cost of the products that we use. Building costs are going to continue to go up because the cost of doing business goes up, and so you're going to be buying less. And I don't want to see that happen if you can help it.
I agree.
What's going to happen July 1st, but wages went up, so they're $100.
I know.
I haven't known Melody that long, but I've never, ever in my life seen anyone more committed and more challenged in her position. You do an excellent job with handicap. So please understand, Melody, she's a great person. She knows her job. She's going to get this done despite the roadblocks that have been thrown up. Can we help us involve now? And we're going to do a story on it shortly about the roadblocks she's had. And one thing you guys have to understand is that this board doesn't take criticism very kindly. They come back with some snipe at the public. So given all of that, we still have to help get these one-stops done, all of them. And Family Office is very actively involved in this right now, and we'll get them all done. But she's got a big handicap. So let's just keep some people out and help them get this done, because she is the most committed, hardworking person I have met in my life.
To be fair, part of the problem is that we're health and social services. We don't know much about it, that's not our thing. And we'll have to turn over to community development where we started, because all the buildings belong to community development. And then they changed hands over the years. Community development staff changed hands. Now we're working with Public Works, and I got to say, Pete has really been a huge help in educating us on how to do business. When you're talking about construction, I'm feeling more confident about building stuff than I did in the past. And we really do want to get these done because they're not great facilities. But if it makes you feel any better, a lot of our county facilities aren't that great either. So I know that's no comfort, but we're going to try to get these taken care of.
Please take this into account, when dealing with the building, final to build this and all that stuff, because, our needs to have to be taken into account. It's not gonna be just any trailer, it's not gonna be just any building, okay, you did mention, ADA compliance and all those things, well, the weather up here, it's really windy and cold, and then summertime.
Absolutely. You don't know how hard I had to fight to tell them what the toilets on the inside was, because I didn't want the water pipes to freeze. So I got that part, not on the contract, but I know that part. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to item H8.
To do a brief update on the kitchen project that is on the triplet plan. Back in 2008, we did some preliminary work on a layout for expanding that kitchen. Here's so anyway, it's a good expansion and it's preliminary layout plans with NSTU, which is the engineering company down in Susanville. I think we did that in 08, kind of in the spring. Going into the budget process for the county, we had put that in there as a possible project. The funding for that, I think it was $175,000 for that. I believe during the budget process, that project did not make it through the other projects that were programmed. So it's kind of been, it's on the list, but it's been tabled since that time. So that's kind of the status of that project. Again, that one's as part of the budget process, it's competing with the projects throughout all the county. Kind of similar situations as everyone else comes. It's pretty tough at budget time trying to fund projects and needs and what the community is looking for. Are there any questions or?
Any board members have questions on that?
This is the kitchen here, it's served when there's events here, but also the kitchen where they cook some meals and provide meals for the seniors today. That's where you can eat here today. Facilities are. Anyway, just go by. I'd invite you to go in there and look at the size of the kitchen facilities that work. Prepare the meals. It's pretty small. And so anyway, I just look at it again, see the door, talk to Lois, the cook in there, but I really got in charge of it, just don't be afraid to ask questions. We're here for you. Good time to take a look at it, so everybody's on the same page.
What's the estimated project cost now for the proposed expansion?
What we had estimated wasn't, we didn't get any farther than doing kind of what the layout would be.
So it's better than the price.
I think we budgeted original 175. I think we have a 150 right now on our project list. It's pretty, it's all, I think it's at least double the size of the kitchen, just pushing it out. And then we are doing some ramp work to get, instead of having a stairway here, that's coming back, a ramp is up there too, and taking care of some of the other issues out back. It's a pretty sizable project. It is a pretty small kitchen, definitely can't argue that there's a lot of upgrades in commercial appliances and everything that you would have to.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve. Okay, Bruce, I think that takes us to item I, correspondence. Oh,
Mr. Chairman, I just have a couple of quick items. One, Chairman Lassen asked me to investigate a little bit this coalition that's being formed to, and the name of the coalition is Coalition of Counties Concerning the Development of a Balanced 2014 Water Bond. Basically what they're asking, this coalition is asking that when the water bonds are considered this year, that the state, or the bond proposals include the obvious issue of water storage projects in the state, rather than just conservation and those other issues, but the obvious need for additional above ground storage. And I've got a draft letter that I'll be bringing to the board in the next week, unless you direct me not to support that coalition and go into more detail on that. But that's the essence of it, is that for the state to consider storage when they look at these water bonds is one of the obvious issues there. The other thing, we've had some discussion about Big Valley Lumber this morning, potentially reopening. We've been contacted by a gentleman named Dirk Armbrust from Next Bank, who I believe is the lender that currently owns the property. They're going to be in the area May 1st, and the planning director and I plan on meeting with them to discuss options there and find out if there's anything the county can do to help facilitate that. It's 12:40 now. I suggest maybe after we have lunch, we can do Little Valley Fire Hall maybe at 1:45 or thereabouts.
Take about 45 minutes.
So maybe 2:15.
Yeah.
2:15. Let's do 2:15. Then you just have to run in there 5 minutes.
Yeah, and we have a letter of correspondence from the Milford Fire Protection. Thank us for paying the Lassen net fire communication. Alrighty, so we'll reconvene.
2:15.